Welcome back to those who've been following our podcast, Context for Chaos, and welcome to those who are just now finding us. I'm Vanessa, a psychic, astrologer, and spiritualist.
And I'm Jessica, a curious explorer with a desire to ground spirituality into everyday human chaos. Right now, we're enjoying spontaneous conversations, but we'll soon focus on topics like love, grief, and purpose, exploring these ideas from both a human and spiritual perspective.
We invite you to follow us on your favorite podcast platform, but you're also more than welcome to join in on the conversation and join us over on Substack. Give us your own stories, add your own thoughts, or ask us to focus on a question or an idea that's been on your mind.
Vanessa and I really like to talk to each other, but community conversations are even more exciting, so don't be scared to get involved. Talk to us if you feel compelled, or just listen in. You'll find more information in the bio section if you're curious.
Let's get to talking and unearth this spiritual context from worldly chaos. Hi, Meg!
How are you? It's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm so good. This is my producer, Jessica.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Meg.
Let's just jump right into it with the question that I had from the beginning. Like, what's been going on with you since 2023? What's been happening?
I started making a list.
Oh my gosh, great.
And I feel like, because there's a bunch of stuff, and I feel like, I love that we're starting here because I was like, wow, yeah, a lot has happened since 2023. And my wife is probably going to listen to this and name like 10 more things that I forgot. So sorry in advance. I'm just going to read this list that I wrote because it's kind of wild. Firstly, I sold 2 more tarot books, right? Because we spoke after Finding the Fool was out. Or right around when Finding the Fool was coming out. I meant to look up the exact date of our last interview, but yeah, my second book, Tarot Spreads, came out last summer, and I am still writing my third book, which is called The Devils We Know and is about the devil archetype, and it will come out whenever the fuck I finish writing it, which could be anytime.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I got to be the guest editor for the Rebus's 4th issue, which was also on the devil archetype. I moved to a significantly better and safer apartment in a new borough here in New York City, which is infinitely better and has a dining room table, which means I can host D&D games, which is everything. I got married to my amazing wife, Dave Hadley.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had a much needed hysterectomy that I've been trying to get for like 15 years. Huge quality of life upgrade. I went no contact with my natal family, which was needed and important and good and healthy. And then just like business wise, I've done a million things. I opened the 3am Tarot Conservatory, a like self-paced library of tarot resources that people can dig into and completely transform their tarot practice in whatever direction and way they want to at their own pace. I opened up mentorships for folks who are doing tarot, and I also opened up a spread architect kind of bespoke monthly tarot spread program for people who want me to write them tarot spreads to use themselves. I launched 2 podcasts, Card Talk and Call Your Coven. I launched a 6-month creative devotion container with my wife Gina called The Grove, which is in its 3rd cohort. I completed a grief facilitation training with the Good Grief Network, and I launched a 10-week collective grief container called River Styx that is running right now. I have to record the lesson for it right after this. I started hosting free tarot meetups in my neighborhood for like local community and connecting with like other tarot readers and witches in the neighborhood. We've gotten to partner up to like do donations to help raise money for our local food pantry, and we've just been doing some really cool stuff together that's been beautiful. I got a bunch more tattoos. I started weightlifting, and I'm in a really great D&D campaign with some witchy best friends. So there's probably other stuff too, but those were the big ones that came up when you asked this question. Been busy. Been busy.
That's incredible. Whoa, this is like 2 years. That's incredible. And you know what's funny is I went and looked up your books because I was like, oh, let me like have a refresher. And I saw your contribution to the 22 archetypes, and I was like, oh, great. Like, but you didn't even mention that in your list. Like, that's crazy.
No, I guess I've written essays for a couple of anthologies. Like, yeah,
That's incredible.
Been in a bunch of podcasts. I've been doing some teach-ins. I'm gonna read at the Morgan Library this summer, which is wild. I don't know how that happened.
Meg,
Don't tell them. Wild stuff. Absolutely wild stuff.
on the up and up. That's incredible.
That is unstoppable.
Kind of bonkers.
Okay, let's start with the
Start wherever you want.
right. Like I want to know what the upgrade with your apartment is first because you're right. I remember when we were recording, you were still in Bushwick or Bed-Stuy near me,
Bed-Stuy. Yeah.
and you were living on a street we both know very well that will not shut up. It's in the most one of the loudest streets I've ever heard. What is it, Nostrand or something?
Bedford Ave.
And it's like a five. Oh yeah, it's like a 5-lane like super street.
Inexplicably, like huge trucks can come barreling, like iron plates on the road.
And
like,
everybody's double parked everywhere. So I remember you were having such a hard time. And then on top of that, if you had a hysterectomy recently, then you must have been having such a hard time physically as well. So tell me about this upgrade. Yeah.
this is so much better. Yeah, we're in Queens now, and it's just quieter, and it's just like the right amount of suburban where it's like it really feels like a neighborhood. I feel like I know the people around me. I live near a bunch of friends. I'm like friends with a ton of other small business owners, and like, there's just like a community element to this part of the borough that we're in that just feels really good. And it's not like I haven't felt that in Brooklyn or in Chelsea or in Harlem or any of the other places I've lived, but it just feels like extra above and beyond here. We have more space. We have a little yard, which I mean, the dirt has arsenic in it. It's not like we can plant things, but we have trees that we can say hi to, and that's a big life upgrade. And also just like that apartment, it had like these huge floor to ceiling windows in every room that looked out over Bedford Ave. And we were only on the second floor. So it was like we installed curtains, but it was like you're either living in a windowless box or everyone can see you're in a fish tank. It was just an aquarium. And so it was really weird energetically. Plus we were there for a year and the building had 3 major water crises. So we had a bunch of our shit damaged. We lost all 3 rugs that we owned. It was the apartment itself was like a disaster. Yeah, it felt like the building was trying to drown itself. Like
Oh my God.
it was brutal. Like my wife lost like a lot of her paperwork and like childhood memorabilia, and she's a memoirist, so that like is extra rough for her. And yeah, we just like so much of our furniture was damaged. We had mildew on the clothing, water running down the walls, water in our closets, water in the hallways. It was
So would you say that maybe a part of your energy reset, your reboot was from moving, that you got to feel more rooted and because you're right, like as there are so many neighborhoods in New York that why not find your own? It doesn't have to be in comparison to another neighborhood. It
totally
when you feel like you're at home, the community feels like it's an extension of your apartment or your house.
absolutely.
And then you just get to do all of these, community things you're talking about, but also probably feel the support and energy to create as much as you've been creating. Yeah.
Yeah. No, truly like between the apartment upgrade and the hysterectomy, because really I was losing like almost 2 weeks a month to pain. Like I was just stuck on the couch with like a heating pad and very anemic, and it's brutal. I had a fibroid in a bad spot in my uterus, and it was just like I was just so sick and had been so sick for so many years. I mean, I went on birth control to try to treat it in high school, and I'm 40 now. And I just got my hysterectomy last year. So like truly as long as I've been an adult, this has been an issue.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting worse. So I finally found a doctor that would take it seriously, and through a clerical error, got sent to a very nice hospital.
So this just opened you.
It's changed everything. Yeah. I mean, reading this list is bonkers, but it's like the amount of energy that I have now, the amount of stamina that I have now. It's so draining to be in so much chronic pain all the time, and also just like bleeding heavily all the time. It takes so much out of you. And so the fact that I was able to do as much as I did while in so much pain was remarkable. But like right now, I haven't slept properly in like 4 days. I still feel better than I have. in the past because I'm not dealing with this particular chronic pain. I'm just dealing with my usual insomnia. So I'm getting to be in a home where I like being here. It's not like I have to leave this apartment because it's so awful to be here and just find a place in the neighborhood to be, but it's like I genuinely love being in my home and I love being in my neighborhood. And so it doesn't feel like I have to escape or like find a place I can spend the day because my apartment is so uncomfortable. Yeah, it's just it's truly changed my life. So, yeah.
I just wanted to ask if with the hysterectomy you don't experience like the hormones anymore, right?
It depends. There's a lot of different kinds of hysterectomies. I was able to keep my ovaries, and so I am 40, so they were kind of at the place where we talked about whether we should remove them or not, because I personally have a bunch of cysts on my ovaries, but they're not big enough that they felt like it was a big deal. And they were like, if we take your ovaries, even if we just take the one that has the worst of the cysts, it could knock you into early menopause. And they were like, you've been through enough. Let's at least try and see if we can avoid that. And it's been almost exactly a year. It's been a couple weeks more than a year. And so far I've been very lucky. I'm knocking on all the wood, but
That's incredible.
it's just
Yeah.
given me the benefits of not having a uterus anymore, a very sick, dysfunctional uterus. But I haven't been knocked into, so I haven't been having any menopause or perimenopause. Is that the premenopause thing? I've been lucky. I haven't had any of those symptoms yet. I'm sure they'll come for me eventually, but I'm not experiencing them right now. So listen, whether you have it or not, the uterus comes for us all, I suppose.
That's the level playing field. That's so okay, so let's go on to your writings. And yeah, when we met, it was Finding the Fool. It was interesting. I don't want to take any credit whatsoever, but I think we had such a great conversation about spreads in our interview. And then I saw that you were coming out with a spread book and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hope that some part of our conversation like was a part of this growth of a seed because we got into spreads, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is where most people find their wall for reading for themselves. And I think everybody definitely deserves their own approach, but I love to hear specific approaches because it can kickstart someone else's thought process if it really resonates with them. So tarot spreads is amazing, and you're working on the one about the devil, and that's the other thing that we talked a lot about was your religious background.
Yeah.
You do have such a great ability to communicate your opinion. And it may take a while for you to flush out the whole opinion, but you have an opinion, you know?
I do. I'll find it in there.
Right, exactly. It's and it never feels like it can't be any other way. It's just like if you resonate with this opinion, it'll feel like you have a support, you know, exploring your own person through tarot in like in this sort of light. So I'm curious about the devil then. Is it a comment on your family or is it a comment on what you went through growing up and like being in a cult, basically? Like
This keeps coming up actually. I just through a like friend of a friend found out like that we both grew up very close together in this like rural part of New England and they knew the church that I grew up in and like the pastor of it and so we were talking and they were like I went to a different cult but sometimes we'd go to your church and I was like oh my God. So it just keeps and that was yesterday so this just keeps coming up. But that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it exactly like that, but I think for me when I think about the devil, I really think about the stuff that we are afraid to like fully confront and explore, the parts of us that might scare us, the parts of us that might feel uncomfortable, the parts of us that we don't want to like speak to in a broader way. It's like the stuff that we protect even if we don't like it because it's like this really tender, vulnerable, aching, scary, difficult part of us. And for me, 100%, I think the older I get and the more I talk about, my upbringing and the more open I am about the impact that it had on me, I do think that that feels less like a devil to me and more like anytime I can pull that out into the light and share it, people immediately come out of the woodwork and are like, oh my God, I had the same experience. Or, oh my God, thank you for putting language to something that I've never known how to say. And it's not that my words are perfect or that my experience mirrors other people's experiences, but I think there is so much loneliness and isolation in certain kinds of abuse and neglect and trauma, especially when it's from our childhood and we weren't necessarily making choices. We were just impacted by the choices of our parents or our families or our communities. And so whenever we can find people that like share that experience, there is such an affirmation of like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who experienced this. I'm not the only one who's still trying to deal with the ramifications of it. And that's part of how my wife and I got to be friends so quickly before we started dating, is that she wrote a memoir called Heretic that's literally about growing up queer in the evangelical church and the different kinds of abuse and trauma she experienced at the hands of her church and her family and the broader community, especially around her queerness and being a woman, because, you know, being being a queer woman is, boy, the church sure hates that. So,
Oh, yeah. Being a woman at all, right? And then on top of that, having even more defiance beyond simply, yeah.
It's like you had superpower.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Drown them.
100%. Like, we got to get them out of here. But it's because we spoke that language. We both understood like what we were talking about, and we didn't have to explain everything. It was like, I can just say that this awful hymn is stuck in my head, or I can say that I'm having this particular feeling about something I'm seeing in the news and language that's being used by certain politicians. And it's like the same kind of siren goes off in your head. You're like, I know what that is. I know what the basis of that is and where that's coming from. And it's activating something in me that I don't necessarily know how to fully explain. Which is all to say that I think the Devil book, it's been really challenging to write. I'm gonna own it. I've talked about it in a few other places as well, but it's been a struggle. Finding the Fool and tarot spreads are both very much about like nuts and bolts technique and craft of reading tarot. There's so much about building relationships with your cards, about speaking the language of tarot, about creating a practice that supports you and where you are and how you want to engage with the cards. That this is something else. This is like 15 essays about how people interpret the devil and like where that comes from in terms of like church history, in terms of philosophy, in terms of like Freud, in terms of like queer liberation, in terms of rebellion, in terms of philosophy. It's like there's art history. Like each essay, I'm doing 15 of them because it's the 15th card and I like numerology.
And you like a challenge.
Yeah, and I really was like, what's the hardest book I could write right now? But each essay really is looking at a particular way of interpreting the devil and thinking about where that comes from, and then offering like spreads and journaling prompts and stuff to engage with that interpretation of the devil in an intentional way. And so there are some chapters that are really easy to write. Like I'm writing a chapter about kink and it's basically done because I'm like, I could write this with my eyes closed. But like the chapters about church history, and I'm like, how far back am I going? I'm writing about Zoroastrianism and I'm like, okay, like do I have to do the whole history of monotheistic religion here?
Almost like losing the plot, like trying to figure out where is it I'm trying to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much. Yeah, and I mean, I have a master's degree, but I'm not an academic. I'm not someone that did particularly well in school. And I'm getting a little lost in the plot of like how much research do I need to do for this versus how much of myself can just be in the book. So it's taking a long time. So I'm trying to balance those pieces out.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, because I get that way too. When I'm writing or when I'm thinking, I'll bite off more than I can chew, basically.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, and I'm curious maybe what your answer would be to this, because what is it that you're trying to either prove, or what is it that you're trying to improve? What is it that you're trying to heal in someone? What are the questions that they don't even know they would want to ask, right? And that sometimes will corral what it is that I'm putting in. And then you can always put the disclaimer at the end of, this is not everything, like it can't be everything. But if I could ask you that question, because the devil you're choosing a card that is both highly spiritual simply because we're in our bodies and we experience like kink is a lot of how people have an out of body experience, and through Kama Sutra and things like that, that's how a lot of religious expression and the goddess temples and things like that would achieve a level of connection with God through the body, right?
Yeah.
So you're able to be an ally to the devil in that way. Like temptation's a pretty easy one because addiction issues, you know.
And a whole chapter on addiction.
Right, exactly. And then a pain is another issue, chronic negative thinking where you all those things, but when it comes to like let's say the root of the devil, right? Because it is material world as well, like Lucifer falling from heaven kind of thing and then creating hell on earth, I guess, or you know, hell. But what would you say is the thing that people are searching for in their own spiritual quest, in their own spiritual journey when it comes to the devil, when it's rooted like that, when it's a historical thing like that? Because we're never going to get away from it because there is an opposition to everything, even if it's not considered to be something destructive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's destructive, it can be also like karma and dharma, right?
Yeah.
It can have like a cyclical force to it. But the devil, the only opposition to it is you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only opposition, right? Is your decision to balance. Maybe temperance is why it comes before it, is like kind of a fall from grace of your own balance.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about like the history of the devil, what is it that you're giving me that is like kind of healing something that even if I'm not a Christian? I don't know. Maybe that's like a crazy question, but I'm curious.
I was like, that's the whole book. Ask an easy question.
Right? I mean, but like historically speaking, like going back to Zoroastrianism, you know, like what is it back there that's going to help me up here?
Yeah.
Like temptation feels so present. 2,000 years ago doesn't, even 4,000 years ago, doesn't feel like I'm going to be impacted by it. Now, maybe like cerebrally I might, and like, oh, I see where like this thread is going.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who searches for that, you know, archetype, you obviously search for like the many faces of a single card. If as a person who does not, I'm not Christian, I wasn't brought up Christian, I would want to know what I'm missing. Because there is a need for it. There's something there, you know? So I don't know. Yeah. Whatever comes to mind, I'm curious what your mind has to say. Yeah.
I love this. And I think that it's an important question to ask, both for me as the writer of this book, but also in general, like what are we looking for when we engage with these like bigger kind of metaphysical or philosophical ideas? Like, what is the point of this? And so much of what I keep circling around, at least in these early chapters where I am talking about, you know, early church history and religion and evangelicalism and Protestantism and Puritans and the Reformation and these different things that have impacted the ways that people understand the devil in like a religious context. It really is like, what is the nature of evil? Which is, you know, you could write a whole book about that.
Totally.
Every one of these essays is like, there are 30,000 books that have been written on this one topic, and there will be more. So they really are meant to be like introductions to like, if you really fuck with this definition, here's some other stuff to read. Here's some things to unpack and explore and like consider. But I think that when we're thinking about the nature of evil in terms of like what that might mean for our tarot interpretations, it's really like when you see the devil come out, is your first thought, oh, something is trying to get me, or there is a force of evil that is acting against me that I don't have any control over or ability to fight against. And it's like, okay, let's unpack that. What does that mean for you in terms of your broader worldview? If there is a, you know, neutral force of evil that is coming for you personally, specifically right now, why do you believe that? Like, where does that belief come from? How does that impact other choices in your life? Or is the only time that you think about this as a possibility when the devil comes up in your tarot readings, right?
Yeah.
I talk a lot about belief around tarot, and I really push people, especially when they're new to their practice, to put down the cards and like unpack for yourself, what do you believe you're doing when you're pulling tarot, and what do you believe the cards can actually tell you? What do you think the cards are capable of? Is there magic in the cards? And if there is that magic coming from you? Is it coming from the cards themselves? Are you connecting to something magical or spiritual or larger than yourself when you have a conversation with the cards, right? Like, I think those questions are essential for every tarot reader to think about, because it helps you put the answers that you're receiving into the context of your own personal philosophy and theology and values and ethics and worldview. If you only ever think that there is some big evil force coming to get you personally when you're reading tarot and the devil comes out, then it's like, okay, then take several seats and think about why that is your response, where that comes from, and if there might be another interpretation of the devil or version of the devil or way you're thinking about the devil that might be more useful for you. Like if the devil's just the boogeyman and that's the only usefulness for it, but you don't think that that's real in other parts of your life, I think it's really worth unpacking where that belief comes from and how it's impacting you. And also like why is that useful for you in terms of your tarot readings? Like what is that doing for you to have a boogeyman in your tarot deck? Like as a possible answer to your questions. Sometimes I think that can be useful, but I think it's important, given that it's a tool and a thing that we have a relationship with and also a language, to really unpack where did that meaning come from and what is it offering to you when it shows up.
You said something earlier, right? When you started about you said the parts of yourself that you won't look at or haven't looked at. And then you said, what is evil? And I, more often than not, when dealing with people especially, or just like the individual experiences like unto each other, and when you're dealing with a new person, I think about maybe how online they are or how conscious they are, because I don't think that anyone is inherently evil, but it helps me in dealing with people who seem just truly like rotten, or maybe just seem like they have it out for you, or like they are consciously inflicting pain. But then I sit with the thought that evil is how much or what is unconscious in each individual, because the more unconscious you are, that means that there's more things beyond your own control that are running the show, that are dictating the energies and moving you as a piece. Like you become more a piece and something beyond yourself. If the more offline you are, the more unconscious you are, the more you won't look at things within yourself that you haven't dissected and integrated and like kind of overcome. And that feels like the root of evil to me within the human experience.
Mm.
And tarot is such a cool tool to look at that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you see this card and it seems like it's coming from outside of you, when really it's just provoking interior analysis.
You said so many things that I want to respond to, but I really love that you didn't do the thing that so many people do when talking about people who do evil things, or even evil people, which is call them monsters. Like I think that the devil does touch on like monstrosity and like other than human, but I see so many people these days, especially when we're looking at all these fucking corrupt politicians and the billionaire class, and there's so many people out there right now, and we're just seeing the absolute depravity and cruelty of their actions and their choices and the ripple effects that that's having and has been having for such a long time, and the tendency to other them and be like they are monsters, they're not human, is I see it all the time. But the truth is that humans can be evil and cruel just as much as the monsters that we imagine. And I think about the nature of evil. I often end up thinking about monstrosity versus humanity. And I mean, again, I was raised Calvinist. I have no problem looking at humans and being like, there is bad shit happening there. There is evil in this. I don't think humans are inherently evil at birth, which is what I was raised to believe. But I do believe that people can choose to be evil or can commit evil acts without remorse, without awareness, and actually justify it to themselves in any number of ways that are also, I think, evil. So there's so much to unpack, but
yeah, and it's like what you also touched on, Jessica and Meg. I'm curious what you think about this, is that we are always, if we are not in a church, you don't follow a religious doctrine that tells you what's good and bad.
Yeah.
We're still dealing, if you are a person who is in any way, shape, or form at least empathetic to the outside world, or wants to move through the world in as good of a way as you possibly can, you will always be weighing if you are doing a good or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And sometimes you learn that through consequence, and sometimes you learn that through, well, it's always through consequence, but say an outside consequence, meaning like you've hurt someone, or an inside consequence where you can't take it anymore. But what I think is also interesting is the 22 major arcana, there's a pattern that Papoose came up with. And I, long story short, I did the whole pattern on the 22 Arcana. And the only one pattern that did not show up, the only one, was entirely outside of oneself, meaning we are constantly believing that everything happens outside of us, when in actuality, you wouldn't even be perceiving it if you weren't standing within it.
Mhm.
There's something that you are also a part of here. And that doesn't mean that, I think sometimes the devil in like these larger themes can come up as, let's say, a nation to its citizens, right? So its citizens will be standing up and like in Iran right now, you know, standing up and saying, I want better, we deserve better, this isn't what we want. And you can look at that as a good and evil issue. And we can't blame the citizen for not wanting to leave Iran,
Right.
or for not wanting to, you know, so there are these absolute victim situations that we can look at,
Mhm.
but most of it is within our choice and our decision and in our karma and our consequence and our humility, right? Looking outside and saying, I believe that maybe I'm not doing this in a way that I would like to. So maybe that's also the historical idea, is the unconscious, like Jessica was talking about, is this constant question of what is good, what is evil, what is the gray matter that they feel that they need to control and put it in a good or evil. So now we're going, hang on a second, I don't think that belongs in either one.
Mhm.
Right. And like, and how many different religions and philosophies and have had different energies around the devil, meaning, you know, it's materialism, or it's eating babies, or it's, you know, it's like these crazy, like, you know, or now trans community, like all those things where people are putting more and more labels on these gray areas that have that has nothing to do with the advancement of human society or the goodness of human society. So maybe that's a part of that history, is seeing that will always be a question inside of every human that is just simply looking to impact humanity,
Mhm.
you know, even through its own small auric bubble, and then questioning yourself, maybe. Yeah, because that's that consciousness. It comes to consciousness if you question yourself.
Yeah, once you start looking at it, then you get to engage with it, you get to unpack it, you get to consider it, you get to stop trying to make it black and white, which I think is such devil work.
Yes.
The desire to make things black and white or put things in binaries, like the engagement with that, like the false safety that there can be perceived in this idea that there is a perfect binary, like, which there pretty much isn't for anything. I think that engaging with that idea, pushing back on that idea, exploring that idea, looking into the gray and being willing to live in that instead of just like dipping our toes in it, I think that's all devil work. And I think it's all work that everybody has to do. You know, we all have our own biases, we all have our blind spots, we all have our shadows, we all have our tendencies, we also have our things that we do that we don't realize how they're impacting other people or how they're impacting us. It's all stuff that we just, in the nature of being a human being living in a society, like we all have to consider those questions. But depending on who you are and your level of privilege and marginalization, like the ways that you engage with that work might require additional support or additional care, or be something that you really have to be a little ruthless with yourself about or extra tender with yourself about. And I think all of that can live within devil work. That I think how people engage with the card, how people think about the archetype, how people start to process with and question these ideas, I think all of it is so personal and it's so powerful once you start engaging with it, but it really is a person by person thing, which I think is why I like talking about this card, because it invites in so many other conversations and it challenges and it pushes buttons and it makes people uncomfortable. And that's the point. Like that's a good thing about it. The things that we avoid, the things that we don't want to look at, the things that we're like, no, I would never do that, or you know, I would never treat someone that way, or I would never believe that, or I would never try to put something in a box so cleanly. It's like we all do different things that are going to have a negative impact on other people or are going to cause harm to ourselves and don't even realize it. And so I think the devil really invites us to slow down and really consider what that might look like and what our gray areas are, our blind spots are, so that we can shine that light on it. And like you said, Jessica, like moving it from the unconscious to the conscious allows us to look at it in more of its completeness. There's always going to be stuff we still can't see about it, but at the very least, when we start dragging it into the light and inviting others to help us see it more clearly and bring some humility to that analysis and perspective, it just shifts what we're able to empathize with, what we're able to understand, and what we're able to kind of unpack and explore. And it just creates a lot more space for growth. So
Yeah.
but it's a hard book to write.
Absolutely.
You see why it's hard.
Hard to write, easy to read. It sounds like it's gonna be a wild ride.
I hope so.
It's gonna be a banger.
It's clearly just gonna demand a lot of time. Like it just needs time to marinate and sit. And like the more conversations I have with folks like y'all and like having good questions to answer and sit with and wrestle through, like all of that feels like part of the writing of the book. It's like the longer it takes, the more people I get to talk to about it. And that's part of the writing process as well, is having ideas challenged, like thinking about it from new perspectives, being like, oh yes, this too.
You kind of hand someone your bubble gum.
Yeah.
Here.
Like, my jaw's a little sore. Can you just please chew on this for a minute for me?
Chew on this.
What is this? What is this flavor we're working out? It's gonna be so cool to read that, like, because it's all just context, right? Like you get this yummy morsel, you chew on this bubble gum, and then people can take that.
Mm-hmm.
You might think you've got cracked the nut, but then something happens and you have to look at like a whole new set of numbers.
Totally.
And so like getting that context and being able to take it into the next experience and like take it to the next level and just have more fodder for the experience. It's exciting. I'm excited to read that book.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because I think the nature of the card is provocative on its own. And then I'm not trying to write it to be provocative. That's not like really my voice or my angle, but it's going to be provocative.
It just is, though. I mean, the devil literally is provocative. Yeah.
100%. And there's going to be people who read it and then I spend too much time talking about the negative aspects of the devil, and that I, as a queer and trans person, that I should be only talking about the liberatory aspects and the freedom and the rebellion and the self-expression and the authenticity. And then there's people who are going to be mad at me that I'm not talking enough about how the devil is a scary card or an agent of chaos or a trickster.
Well, then they can go write their own book about it. That's what, you know.
Exactly. Like the point is to share all of these different potential pathways to working with the devil. And I don't expect that anyone only works with one. Like whenever the devil comes up for me in a reading, I have to really pull back and be like, okay, what is this card trying to communicate? Because there's so many things that this archetype might trying to offer me in this particular moment. I have to look at the context of the reading and the context of my question and think about all of the different levels and layers to this card and consider what they're showing up for me for in that moment. But that's a hard thing to do. And also it's a tender card. So
I have got to tell you, I just remembered this now. So I did a poll for myself today just to be like, what's the day going to be like? I never allow any thoughts of things where I have to do a performance of some kind or a podcast or, do a reading. So I'm just like in general, the number one card, the main card was the devil.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I wonder what this says. Because it's also taking a look at it in terms of time. This is one day. The devil could show up like this in the podcast. I'm not experiencing the devil, but we're talking about the devil, and right. Maybe if I was doing my year spread, I'd be like, hang on. What is this?
Like a whole month? What are we doing here?
Exactly. But one day, and I think that's fascinating because I never see the devil. It never shows up for me. There are certain cards that I forget are in the deck because it never shows up for me.
Totally.
And then it was the high priestess above it, and I think the hermit below it.
Oh.
So it was looking behind the veil and considering all the possibilities, all the potentials, and what it teaches us, right? And
I love it.
That's what's beautiful also is when you approach it the way you're approaching it, regardless of who has a reaction to it, you're approaching it the correct way, which is an archetype. It's like somebody having a reaction to how you spoke the alphabet. It's like these are just different faces. They're just different faces. You can feel impacted by one. You can leave another one. You can have your own opinion on one. Maybe one chapter inspires you to write your own devil book, and then we can look at it in those ways. Yeah. But the point of the devil, and this, okay, so for me, like the point of the devil is that you don't get to choose what is happening. You don't get to say, let's use a really obvious one. You don't get to say that your addiction is great for your family just because because that's the way you want to experience addiction.
Yeah.
The devil is, I think, an essential because it requires you to consider people around you, right? It requires you to recognize you are a part of a community, and you going down is everybody going down.
Yeah.
And you hurting someone has a ripple effect.
Mhm.
You not having an understanding of your needs and your desires and how to play safely with those things and how to then obviously move more authentically and grow and expand in that. But not everybody needs to do that with you sometimes. Not everybody is going to benefit from that. You know, not everything is supposed to affirm you. Not everything is supposed to get behind you. If there's any any interesting thing, and Jess and I talk about this, that I find about the 10 Commandments,
Mm.
if we're looking at what's good and what's evil, right? If we're looking at like the 10 Commandments, that's it. It was don't kill people. Everybody, pretty much anybody with a conscience is like, yeah, you know,
Probably don't. Yeah.
fair. Okay, cool. Why not? Like, don't sleep with your neighbors. Okay, you know, I could, and I could then gaslight you and say you should be fine with that. But the group consensus would say, you know, we're not cool with that.
Mm.
So it's this recognition that you're not the only person here.
Yeah.
You're not your sense of comfort is your job. And if somebody else, I'm not talking about these extreme experiences where then somebody has a retaliation to them, which would be the devil. That right there, the retaliation towards you would be that devil experience. You know, you're having to deal with somebody else's perspective. But your perspective, you're allowed your perspective. You are allowed to own your perspective. You're allowed to grow your community around your perspective. You're allowed to date people who support you're allowed to do all those things. Not everybody has to agree with that. And I love that you look at it like, there are 15 ways we can look at this thing and be like, that is absolutely a way that we confront and deal with the devil. Some have a more obvious way of being, like addiction, temptation, kink, things like that, and some are more subtle that you haven't even thought of. You haven't even recognized that this is the devil in you, right? Like, so I applaud that you are trying to stay as neutral as such an opinionated person. You know, you have like, I have an opinion about the devil. However, I do want to look at it 15 different ways. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I think part of what my general approach to the cards is like every card has a million things that they could teach you, and every card is going to bring something out in each person. So like your relationship with the card is going to be different than my relationship with the card is going to be different than the people listening to this' relationship with the card. And that's not like a bug, that's a feature. Like that is a good thing. That is a cool part of the thing. Like that's the point is not to make sure that we're all conforming and using the exact same sets of keywords and the same imagery and stuff. Like the idea instead is that we're engaging with these archetypes in ways that are going to reflect our own experiences and our own way of moving through the world, our own identities, and also our own like blind spots and like things that we need to learn and grow and be challenged on. And so I think the devil really encapsulates a lot of that stuff. And I was like, what's the hardest card to navigate in the tarot? And I think for a lot of people it is the devil, because there is such a wide range of things that the devil might have to teach us. I do think that sometimes the devil comes forward to be like, you gotta loosen up.
Yes.
You're holding onto this thing so tightly, you're trying to control every single aspect of it, you're breaking it, you're ruining it, you're making this thing less precious, and you're losing all the joy.
Yeah. You're braver than this. Let's go.
Yeah, you're braver than this. Like loosen up your hand a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it. Let it be everything that it is instead of just this one narrow thing. And it's going to become even more precious and special to you. And also it's going to be able to be its whole self instead of just this narrow version of what you've given it the space to be. And other times I think the devil is like, this thing you cannot say no to. Like you have to figure out how to say no sometimes, you know?
And you know, when the devil shows up, you know. It's showing up because you know.
You're like, oh,
it's showing up because it's like, oh, you know, I did go overboard. I did. And
I didn't need to say that. I didn't need to do that. Yeah.
The reverse devil might be, I am now ready to tackle it, but the devil being there at all is, we all see you. You might be an elephant in the room right now. Exactly. Like we all see you.
Like, come on. But yeah, I think the devil sometimes can call on us to be brave, to do the damn thing. I think sometimes the devil can be like, you gotta sit down and be in a dark room for a little bit and be alone with your thoughts. You have to look at this thing that you've been avoiding. You've got to break this pattern. You know, there's just a lot of ways that the devil can call us out. But that's usually what I see is when the devil comes up, it's calling us out on something. It's just a matter of figuring out what it's responding to and like what that archetype might have to teach us or want to shine a light on in that particular moment. Like, what are you hiding? What are you hiding from? What are you hiding behind? What are you trying to actively conceal from someone else? Like, it's an invitation to be like, okay, that thing you really don't want to look at, time to talk about it.
Yeah, your own personal accountability. It's so personal, and that's the balance of life. That's the duality of life.
Yeah.
Not every step you're going to take is perfect. It's just
No.
not. All you can do is be open enough to believe that people outside of you are being realistic with you, or the truth is happening. No matter what, the truth is happening. Okay, I have to like really feel this truth, or I have to really confront this truth. I think it kind of keeps us in this checks and balances system, because human beings don't like to feel uncomfortable.
We really don't. Especially white people.
Right? We either buckle under it and we just hold down and say, I'm right and everyone else is wrong, or I'm going to just take this moral high ground and say that this is, if you are against me, you're against everything that I believe in. Or, you go the other route and you go through an even more uncomfortable process of, like we've been talking about, bringing something to consciousness, because isn't the root of all evil the lack of knowledge? That's what is said most of the time, is that ignorance is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
So if you could, and we're going to start wrapping this up, and I want to, especially since we're on the devil, and eventually this book is coming out and we're all running to it, because this is...
Eventually. Send all your devil vibes towards me. Send me your good. Light the candles, like send the good energy.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. I got my main card was the devil. How crazy is that? I was like, huh.
Also, my birth card is the high priestess. Not to make your reading about me, but like it is actually my...
Oh my God. It is about you. It is. This is incredible. This is so cool. And then we're investigating it with the hermit, like this is so interesting.
Absolutely. Looking in.
As you're writing this, obviously a lot of questions are starting to bubble to the surface that maybe you didn't start out with. And if you could offer the audience something that you feel everybody feels with the devil, like shame or self-consciousness or patterns and habits you just can't get out of.
Mm-hmm.
So far, what have you found is an antidote to this, or something that people can do that can help them with their own devil?
Oh, what a beautiful question. The word defensiveness popped up into my head when you were like listing things that I think are like reactions people have to the devil, is often defensiveness as well. Just to add on to that list that you shared, I think the answer is curiosity. Actually, and in part that's because that's just my life philosophy. It's like, be more curious. Be less certain, like let yourself be uncertain. It's actually good for you. But I think curiosity really is the antidote to so many of the challenges that the devil can present. And also just like, I think again, the work of being a good human is to be more curious. But I think when we approach the devil from a place of, okay, what do you have to teach me? What am I not seeing? What am I getting defensive about? What am I ashamed of? What do I keep stuffing into the dark corners of my heart instead of being willing to look at them closely? What questions am I afraid to ask to that person that I care about and I'm like tiptoeing around? Or what am I afraid to try? Like, I think when we're willing to slow down and step back and actually ask meaningful questions that get to the heart of what we are feeling, it opens up so many new possibilities for us, and it gives us an opportunity to learn. It gives an opportunity to change. It gives us an opportunity to grow. It also gives us an opportunity to walk away from things that are causing harm to us or ways that we are causing harm. But I think curiosity inherently includes humility. And I just think that we can't tackle those challenges unless we're willing to say, what don't I know? What don't I know about this? Or what do I think I know about this? And I'm actually really like, what if I'm wrong about this? And what's okay, fine, I'm wrong. So cool. What else? Now, what can I learn from that place of, I don't know everything, or something I was taught as a child and never questioned. Now it's time for me to question this thing. Because it's an uncomfortable experience having your worldview shaken up. Like I have been through that several times in my life, and it's scary. Deconstruction is scary. Worldview shattering is scary. Realizing that this lie you were told as a kid and built your whole life around is actually just one guy's mythology and you don't have to believe it anymore. Like that is a shattering experience, and it takes time to build that back up. And I don't think that the devil always has to be that big, but I think that when we allow ourselves to say, okay, I need to ask more questions here, I need more information, I need different perspectives, I need to talk to people who have known more about this for much longer than I have, it just makes a lot of space for for continued humility, but also for growth in a healthier and more supported direction. And also just helps us find people that are going to be able to help support us along the way. So curiosity is my antidote to a lot of things, but I think especially for the double, it's just a really critical place to start and like piece to have as part of the equation.
I love that answer because 100% curiosity, which is the also the root of intelligence, is I have a question. I feel like I wasn't expecting that answer. I think I was expecting something more along the lines of empathy, because that's probably my knee-jerk reaction to the idea that, like, even though I wasn't brought up in a Christian home, I was brought up in a Christian nation. And it's always, you have to empathize with them. You have to, you have to just completely understand. You have to just feel things. And it's like, sometimes I want to know. Sometimes I want to like really understand it in my bones and not just be driven by another controlled factor, which is this is the only way that you can respond. You can come up with your own conclusion of things. You can still be just your own authentic self. You don't have to let yourself go into something in order to say that you're absolving some kind of feeling of opposition. It can be yes or it can be, okay, give me information. It can be those things. So it's like, can you educate me? Can you give me things that will help my mind wrap around this? Because then that's, I think, also why I read this in an article once, so it's great. The emotions will task the brain to fix something or to give it something, So the emotions are feeling something, but the brain has to interpret it. So starting with the brain and the brain meeting the emotion with it will even calm the emotion down, because it's not just all the emotion's doing is responding. It's not taking in the information. It's saying, if you don't want me to respond like this, you need to give me information, yo.
Yeah. Like, tell me what's going on. Yeah.
You don't want me to respond like this? I need to, come on, let's go. Give me some answers, like, so we look at it like our whole heart has to change, but our heart is also part of our mind. That is the mind-body complex, So I think that's so great that you said curiosity.
Yeah, no, and I love that you mentioned empathy, because I think that my brain first went to like, how many articles have been written about like we have to have empathy for Trump voters, we have to have empathy for like these certain classes of people that have been so like, I don't know, so categorized in a specific way and used as ammo in so many ways. And it's like there's a point where empathy is only going to get us so far, and of course all of that is so like narrow, and it's so used as political fodder in such a specific way to like tell a very specific narrative and blah blah blah. We don't have to talk about mainstream media right now, but like I think that there's only so much that empathy can do when it's not also supported by genuine curiosity. Not like, give me the receipt, but like genuinely being like, tell me more about your experience, explain to me the things that I don't know, help me understand where you're coming from, or what this means, or what the impact of this has been, or point me towards some resources so that I can learn and educate myself. Like, I think that you can have empathetic curiosity in a way that is much more meaningful than just like pretending that you care about the questions when you're actually just trying to prove a point. Like, we're talking about like genuine curiosity. I love that you brought in the empathy piece, because I think that is a part of the equation. Absolutely.
Yeah. Meg, thank you so much.
It's so great. I love talking to you.
I'm talking to you. We have to do this more.
Anytime. Y'all are great.
That was so much fun to listen to.
I'm so glad.
But Meg, really quick, tell us where we can find you. I know you're 3 a.m. Tarot.
My website's probably best. I am still on Instagram as 3am.tarot, and I think I'm actually Meg Jones Wall on Blue Sky. I think I couldn't get 3am Tarot for some reason, but 3amtarot.com is where you're going to find my newsletter. It's where you're going to find my podcast. It's where you're going to find my books. It's where you're going to find my classes. You'll find my conservatory program, my larger containers. Links to everything that I do is going to be there. Instagram is probably where I post the most. I should post more on Blue Sky, or just like retweet people. But
we're all tired.
We're all tired, and Instagram's a lot, so I mostly am like posting angry things about politics. But
there you go. Exactly.
I try to continue posting about. It's where I have a big audience, so I try to share things when I can.
Yeah, and I think the time with Neptune moving into Aries, the time of conformity is over.
Truly, like.
We're in a different zeitgeist now with.
Honestly, I'm like, I started reading tarot in 2016. I've always been like this, but I just get louder the more.
Exactly. Exactly.
The older I get, the less I give. I'm like,
I mean, up until this point, everybody really was, Instagram and TikTok and we would constantly try to put the same things out there and be the same way. And
yeah,
I don't think anybody cares anymore, really. It's just,
I don't think anybody cares.
it's like everyone's eaten their favorite chocolate for too long.
Do you? You do you. I'm over here doing me.
Just go be weird. Like, who cares?
Right, exactly. And so now it's just like, yeah, I'm eating this fruit I got from this island somewhere. I don't know. Like, it's like, so I think it's great. Like,
It's like original Instagram again when we're all just like, here's my oatmeal, free Palestine. Like, what? I don't know. Like, it's just where I am
exactly. Except
now.
the algorithm still is like, oh, well, we'll show this to 2,000 people and see if they like it.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
You're like,
whatever.
sure, whatever.
But thank you so much again, Meg. You're amazing.
Thank you both. This was so fun, and it's so nice to chat with you both. And
It was so nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Meg.
thank you both so much. Have a great day.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you for joining us. And until next time, as above, so below, blessed be.